So the first thing I'm going to do as I do this is I'm going to put a character in. This is sped up about 500% right now. So at this point, I'm just going to put a character in. It's going to be very simple, very easy, nothing, but it gives me a scale. It gives me a setup. And so I'm just starting to kind of fill up my process here. I'm going to put some buildings in real quick, and I'm just using big blocks. I'm not worried about uh, anything but proportion and scale. And I think this is one of the things that students tend to overlook because it's so simple. It's just putting in blocks, putting in your basic scene. These are cars that I'm going to make here eventually, but I just want to get the basic gist, the basic shape and size of a car. If I put too much in there, or if I start building one part and then I build another part, I have to move things around. I have to, adjust my scaling concepts. I'm putting in some base block dumpsters in there and moving some of those parts around. And I think that is, that's one of the simplest things to do is do uh, a block in, and it doesn't have to be fancy. I'm using base blocks. I'm kind of scaling things around. I'm shifting them over, scaling things up, and I'm overlapping things, and it doesn't matter. But because all that matters in the end is that I have my basic idea. And so, my initial scene was set up so that the sidewalk was really narrow, and as I started doing that, I realized that's just not going to work. So that's why I expanded that sidewalk um, and started working on that. And then as you work on this stuff, you freeze it and you hide it. I should have named it, but of course, I was just kind of working on my own project, so I didn't worry about it. But it's those little things that really kind of help push your basic idea of blocking in a scene and making it for a development process. I can easily change something at this level versus if I'm halfway through a building and I realize my scale is off, I have to go through and fix everything else. Here I'm making a stairway. I'm just getting kind of a base idea for the stairwell and starting to kind of flesh out that idea. And again, note at this stage, I'm really not spending a lot of time pushing in any amount of shape or detail. It's basic blocks. It's basic shapes. I went overboard with the stairs. I could have used a triangle, but the reason I did the stairs is because it has all the little pieces that I wanted in the end. So that's something to kind of really work on. So as I continue to work on this, I'm just putting in some real simple blocks for the stairwell, and I'm just gonna kind of put in the this would be my lions that I was thinking about modeling on here. And again, that's essentially the shape that I'm using. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. And the only reason I did that was I kind of wanted a feeling of scale for it. And and that's something that I can go into ZBrush and I can kind of work on and build up for that aspect. And you notice my figure is still there, and here is where I start doing like mailboxes and putting those on the sidewalks. And again, notice I'm measuring it via the figure. I'm not measuring it I'm not plopping it in there. Uh, I'm putting it via the figure so that I realize how well the figure looks. And now what I'm doing is I'm drawing a curve, and I'm just going to take this curve and put a camera on there. And it's something really simple, really easy to do. The camera is it's just a base camera. It's got no pathing to it or anything like that, and so I just attach it to the spline, and I animate it via spline. And so now one of the things that I'm doing for this block-in is I'm actually walking through the block-in. And so as you can see, what I'm doing now is I'm going to change the different, I'm going to change the path around, and I'm kind of moving things and adjusting things where that camera lies, so that now I'm getting a sense of what I'm trying to look at. You can see with what I'm doing here is I'm just scrubbing back and forth, and the timing is all kind of off and stuff like that. But all I want is changing it so it looks good as I flow through it. Now notice at one of the points I move the curve up so that I can actually look above the ceiling, and so that's one of the big things that I want to do is I want to be able to see like the skyscape in the background. And so by doing that, by basically just putting in something as simple as that, I'm getting a real quick idea of the way things are going. Now here, I'm ending up on my focal point, which is going to be this kind of gambling casino with, the lions on it. And I'm probably going to wind up sculpting those into 3D, into ZBrush and some other processes there. But I'm just putting placeholders, and I went even as far as putting the placeholders for the door, so that when I model it, or when I'm doing this block-in, I can kind of see where my door placement is going to be and how everything is going to look. Because and it sounds stupid, but a simple door process, simple putting in doors where the doors are going to be, and even at this where I'm not even looking at it, gives me the opportunity to look and see how it's going to look from a scene. So now I'm starting to place things around a little bit, and now we see the doors. I see the above scene up there, and so I can add in some more signage and things like that. And now what I'm going to do is I wanted those kind of Japanese style lanterns where they're all hanging on the string. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just make something real quick, and I'm going to use a spline to kind of create the string to it. And so it's actually really simple to do. And then I'm going to add in this, make sure everything's right. And then what I'm going to do is add in and collapse these all in one thing. And so now I can basically clone and move and get that feeling that the string is essentially kind of part of the scene. So I'm just moving it up and down. And so now I've got these different pieces here, and you can't even hardly tell when you're looking at it this way. But by changing the camera up a little bit, moving them down, I can get a better process of. So now that I've got this pretty much done here, I'm going to actually render it out. And so the render is actually the next thing here, and this is my render. And so I can see people, I'm moving it slow enough, I'm okay with the timing, and that is pretty much the end of the final project. And so my focal point ends on these dragons here, or sculptures here, and they're done.